After last week's episode catapulted us into no man's land with the biggest diversion from the book, this week's episode heads towards the same route as the original, albeit in a roundabout way. The episode begins with the seemingly ill and heartbroken Toranaga arriving in Edo under the escort of Saiki's men. Mariko tells Blackthorne that Toranaga has been permitted to come to Edo to mourn his son for the customary 49 days. After that, Toranaga and all his vassals will be delivered to Osaka and undoubtedly put to death. A bleak sentence, but Toranaga has indirectly earned an extra 49 days, which is a vast improvement over the immediate trip to Osaka he was going to get last episode. This is interesting because it's a similar result to the book, although the method was very different. Both versions of Toranaga need to desperately find a way to buy time. In the book, he pretends to be ill and postpones his journey to Osaka that way. Nagakado is put to rest and everyone but Toranaga is present. Toranaga is shown to be very sickly and his vassals discuss the decision to surrender, with many wearing their armor to the funeral in protest of his decision. We then cut to Blackthorne in the city, navigating his way through the merchants, trying to acquire charcoal. Alvito incorrectly translates for him and is shocked by Blackthorne's improved understanding of Japanese. I'll be honest, the Portuguese and Blackthorne stories have been heavily simplified or straight up cut out, but I'll talk about that later. Next we have Toranaga's meeting with his generals. A somewhat similar scene to the original but changed to fit the context of the show. The generals disagree with Toranaga's decision and he doesn't react well. A side door opened. Toranaga came in. Sudara followed. Everyone bowed stiffly. Toranaga bowed back and sat facing them. Sudara as heir presumptive slightly in front of him, also facing the others. Naga came in from the main door and closed it. Only Toranaga wore swords. It has been reported that some of you speak treason, think treason and plan treason, he said coldly. No one answered or moved. Slowly, relentlessly, Toranaga looked from face to face. Still no movement. Then General Kiyoshio spoke. May I respectfully ask, sire, what do you mean by treason? Any questioning of an order or a decision or a position of any liege lord at any time is treason, Toranaga slammed back at him. The general's back stiffened. Then I'm guilty of treason. Then go out and commit seppuku at once. I will, sire, the soldier said proudly. But first I claim the right of free speech before your loyal vassals, officers and count. You forfeited all rights. Page 890. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers. I think I'm less than 100 subscribers away from it. So it'd be cool if you help me reach it. I post these Shogun videos every week, and yeah, thanks for watching. Back to the video. Toranaga at this point in the book is committed to selling the ruse. He desperately wants Ishido, Ochiba and the council to believe his surrender so he can buy some time to formulate a plan, going as far as to order his closest and most loyal generals to commit seppuku. Even with that order though, they continue and try to get him to change his mind. Very well, then I claim it as a dying wish, as Hatamoto, and in return for 28 years of faithful service. Make it very short. I will, sire, General Kiyoshio replied icily. I beg to say, first, going to Osaka and bowing to the peasant Ishido is treason against your honor, the honor of your clan, the honor of your faithful vassals, your special heritage, and totally against Bushido. Second, I indict you for this treason and say you've therefore forfeited your right to be our liege lord. Third, I petition that you immediately abdicate in Lord Sudara's favor and honorably depart this life, or shave your head and retire to a monastery, whichever you prefer. The general bowed stiffly, then sat back on his haunches. Everyone waited, hardly breathing now that the unbelievable had become a reality. Abruptly, Toranaga hissed, "What are you waiting for?" General Kiyoshio stared back at him. "Nothing, sire, please excuse me." His son began to get up. "No, you are ordered to stay here," he said. The general bowed a last time to Toranaga, got up and walked out with immense dignity. Some stirred nervously and a swell moved through the room. But Toranaga's harshness dominated again. Is there anyone else who admits treason? Anyone else who dares to break Bushido? Anyone who dares to accuse his liege lord of treason? Please excuse me, sire, Isamu, the old counselor said calmly. But I regret to say that if you go to Osaka, it is treason against your heritage. The day I go to Osaka, you will depart this earth. The grey-haired man bowed politely. Yes, sire. Page 890. With this added context, the later scene with Hiromatsu makes more sense. Although it was completely original to the show, it is still very much in character for Toranaga to do. Even though book Toranaga is a bit more friendly than the show's version, he is just as cold and calculated, especially at the end of the story. Don't worry, as usual, there won't be any spoilers for future episodes in these videos. And if there are, I'll put a spoiler alert, of course. Next, we have the tea ceremony, one of the two highly anticipated scenes in this episode. This and Blackthorne's reunion with his crew are some of the best parts of the book and favourites among fans. So in this scene, Buntaro asks Mariko to have tea, He is clearly conflicted about her, seemingly broken by their cold, unloving relationship and jealousy for her alleged fondness of Blackthorne. He reminisces about the apparent good times they've had, and she doesn't seem to share those same memories. He offers her the death he thinks she wants via a double seppuku, and she shoots him down and doubles down on her hatred of him. The vibe of this scene is completely different in the book. First, it wasn't actually Buntaro's idea. Toranaga told him that he thought that him and Mariko should talk. The book also emphasized the effort Buntaro put into the ceremony and what the ceremony meant. It was much more of a detailed event with pages dedicated to the entire thing. First, he put the taper to the oil lamps. Then carefully he sprinkled water on the flagstones and the trees that were now splashed here and there with flickering light, until the tiny garden was a fairyland of dewdrops dancing in the warmth of the summer breeze. He repositioned some of the lanterns. Finally satisfied, he unlatched the gate and went to the vestibule. The carefully selected pieces of charcoal that had been placed punctiliously in a pyramid on white sand were burning correctly. The flowers seemed correct in the takonama. Once more he cleaned the already impeccable utensil. The kettle began to sing, and he was pleased with the sound that was enriched by the little pieces of iron he had placed so diligently in the bottom. All was ready. The first perfection of the cha no yu was cleanliness. The second, complete simplicity. The last and greatest, suitability to the particular guest or guests. Page 769. The reason the ceremony was so significant is because at a cha no yu all were equal, host and guest, the most high daimyo and the merest samurai, even a peasant if he was invited. Page 770. It was his way of completely submitting himself to her, which as a samurai, doing so to his wife was quite a meaningful gesture. Now obviously that doesn't absolve him of his sins, he still beat her and a heartfelt ceremony won't earn forgiveness, but that wasn't the point of the scene. In such a stressful situation with death looming around the corner, Toranaga is seemingly ready to give up. Buntaro just wanted peace between them, something Mariko also desired. Both drifted into a sweet melancholia, joined by the simplicity of a single tear, content together in the quiet, joined in humility, knowing that what they had been given had been returned in purity. Later, Buntaro said, "If our duty did not forbid it, I would ask you to join me in death, now." "I would go with you gladly," she answered at once. "Let us go to death, now." "We can't. Our duty is to Lord Toranaga." She took out the stiletto that was in her obi and reverently placed it on the tatami. "Then please allow me to prepare the way." "No, that would be failing in our duty. What is to be will be. You and I cannot turn the scale." "Yes, but we may not go before our master, neither you nor I. He needs every trustworthy vassal for a little longer. Please excuse, I must forbid it. I would be pleased to go tonight. I'm prepared. More than that, I totally desire to go beyond. Yes, my soul is brimming with joy." A hesitant smile. "Please excuse me for being selfish. You're perfectly right about our duty." The razor-sharp blade glistened in the candlelight. They watched it, lost in contemplation. In the original, it was a bit more of a bittersweet scene. Both were tired of their tragic lives and longed for death, but were bound by their responsibilities to keep living. But in that suffering, they found common ground. I understand why they didn't include it. Domestic abuse is a touchy subject, and they wouldn't want to risk showing an abuser in a redeeming light. But I think that's kind of cowardly. People aren't black and white, and audiences aren't dumb. They can understand nuance. Also, this is set in a time period where modern morals didn't apply. Lastly, this isn't redemption for Buntaro. He's still an unlikable character, and we still root for Mariko to be free of him in the book, even after this scene. But as I said before, it was a way to find common ground and a modicum of peace in such tumultuous times. I don't think including the scene glorifies domestic abuse. Buntaro is not a character that is viewed in a positive light at all. I was going to say I wish they included this scene, but given how they've written Mariko's and Buntaro's relationship so far, it wouldn't really make much sense. In the book, he also pretty much knows something's going on between Mariko and Blackthorne since they were so close. Whereas in the show, he's kind of just depicted as being jealous and insecure and super possessive of Mariko. In that context, the show's version makes more sense, and I did enjoy it for what it was, even though I prefer the original. Let me know what you thought about the original and the show's version, and which one you think you prefer. Moving on to the long-awaited reunion. See, with the tea ceremony, I think it can be argued that within the context of the show, the changes make more sense. However, with this scene, I think it's just undoubtedly worse. Blackthorne, now given his ships and freedom, goes to the Funyado region where his men have been drinking and gallivanting for months. He comments on how it stinks, tries to leave, is caught by his crewmate, meets his crewmate while he's trying to force himself on a prostitute, fights him, calls him filthy, and throws his kimono and leaves. If you're wondering why I explained it so briefly, it's because that's how brief this scene is in comparison to the book. I'm not one to only complain about differences purely due to the fact that they're different. but this is literally a bastardization of the original scene, devoid of all meaning. It took a moment for Blackthorne's eyes to adjust to the light. The fetid air was almost choking him. He saw them all gaping at him as though he were a devil wraith. Then the spell broke and there were shouts of welcome and joy, and everyone was squeezing and punching him on the back, all talking at the same time. "Pilot, where have you come from? Have a drink. Christ, is it possible? Piss in my hat, it's great to see you. We'd given you up for dead. No, we're all right. At least mostly all right. Get out of the chair, you whore." The pilot summons to sit in the best sodden chair. "Hey, grog, nah? Quick, God curse, quick. God damn my eyes. Get out the way, I want to shake his hand." This scene in the book lasts for almost half a chapter. Blackthorne goes inside and sits with them. They tell him what they've been up to over the months, and he starts to realize something. Blackthorne felt an itch on his bare leg and he rubbed it without thinking. The irritation got worse. Then he saw the mottled lump of a flea bite as Vink continued proudly. "It's like Bacchus said, pilot. I asked Sato-sama if we could move and he said yes. Why not? They'd usually let me fish from one of their little skiffs to pass the time. It was my nose that led me here, pilot. The old nose led me." "Blood," Blackthorne said. "A slaughterhouse? A slaughterhouse and tanning? That's..." He stopped and blanched. "What's up? What is it?" "This is an Etta village." "Jesus Christ, these people are Etta. What's wrong with Ettas?" Van Neck asked. "Of course they're Ettas." Blackthorne waved at the mosquitoes that infested the air, his skin crawling. "Damn bugs. They're rotten, aren't they? There's a tannery here, isn't there?" I don't know if the shows addressed this, but Burakumin, aka Etta, were pollution abundant, outcast, or untouchable Japanese minority occupying the lowest level of the traditional Japanese social system. The Japanese term Etta is highly pejorative, but prejudice has tended even to tarnish the otherwise neutral term of Burakumin itself. Blackthorne was shocked that his crewmates would associate themselves with them, let alone live with them. Blackthorne became so used to the Japanese lifestyle that his old ways seemed nearly completely disgusting, and realized he fits into neither world and has no home at all. This all culminated in the final scene where he leaves his crew. Cheerily, Blackthorne waved the last time. There was an answering shout from the darkness, the far side of the little bridge. Then he turned away, his forced heartiness evaporated, and he walked around the corner, the samurai guard of 10 men surrounding him. On the way back to the castle, his mind was locked in confusion. Nothing was wrong with Etta, and everything was wrong with Etta. Those are my crew there, my own people, and these are heathen and foreign and enemy. Streets and alleys and bridges passed in a blur. Then he noticed that his own hand was inside his kimono and he was scratching, and he stopped in his tracks. Those goddamned filthy. He undid his sash and ripped off his sopping kimono, and as though it were defiled, hurled it in a ditch. "Dozo, nan desu ka, Anjin-san?" one of the samurai asked. "Nani mo?" "Nothing, by God." Blackthorne walked on, carrying his swords. "Ah, Etta, wakarimasu. Gomenasai." The samurai chatted among themselves, but he paid them no attention. "That's better," he was thinking with utter relief, not noticing that he was almost naked, only that his skin had stopped crawling now that the flea-infested kimono was off. Jesus God, I'd love a bath right now. Page 870. Here Blackthorne starts to question if he truly belongs with his crew. He clearly acts like a samurai would, being disgusted by their affiliation with the Etta, their filthy quarters, and their overindulgence in prostitutes. He wanted to reunite with them for so long, and when that moment finally came, it was uncomfortable and unenjoyable. He still respected him enough to keep his opinions to himself, also similar to the samurai. Only when they were out of sight did he throw his kimono on the ground, purely out of the desire to be clean. This was a huge moment for me in the book, and a major shift in Blackthorne's character. Sure, there was a bigger focus on Blackthorne's initial dislike of the Japanese and their customs, but because of that, his gradual acceptance and eventual fondness of them is much more significant. I still love the show, but this was a huge miss for me, man. Anyway, moving on to the best part of the episode. Hiromatsu. Toranaga has another meeting with his generals and orders them to sign a list confirming their intentions to surrender. One of his generals refuses and believes Toranaga's surrender is unjustified. Here, Hiromatsu intervenes and tries to get Toranaga to change his mind, stating that he will commit seppuku if he doesn't. After a heartbreaking exchange of words, Hiromatsu, the old samurai and Toranaga's best friend, commits seppuku and is seconded by his own son Buntaro. Many in the room are brought to tears as the grey-haired warrior shares his last words. He commits seppuku and is beheaded swiftly. An absolutely insane scene. The music was perfect and the acting was brilliant. What a change and what an improvement. This is a huge departure from the book and one that I honestly welcome. In the original, while they're alone, Hiromatsu pleads with Toranaga to reconsider. Iron Fist said simply, "I formally ask you, sire, do you order me to escort you from Edo the day after tomorrow to begin the trek to Osaka?" As there seems to be advice from all my counselors to the contrary, I'll accept their opinion and yours and delay my departure. Hiromatsu was totally unprepared for this. You won't be leaving? Toranaga laughed, the mask fell off and he was the old Toranaga again. I never intended to go to Osaka. Why should I be so stupid? What? My agreement at Yokosei was nothing more than a trick to gain time. Toranaga said affably. Ishido took the bait. The fool expects me in Osaka within a few weeks. Saiki also took the bait. And you, with all my valiant, untrusting vassals, also took the bait. With no real concession whatsoever, I've gained a month. Put Ishido and his filthy allies in turmoil. I hear they're already scrambling for the Kwanto. Kiyama's been promised it as well as Saiki. Toranaga decides to confide in Hiromatsu and tells him his plan since he trusts him. It was also because Toranaga's generals would not surrender and possibly commit mutiny. I needed you to do what you did and say what you said. Now I need you more than ever. I must have someone I can trust. That's why I'm taking you into my confidence. This has got to be a secret between us. Oh sire, you make me so happy. Yes, Toranaga said. That's the only thing I'm afraid of. Sire, your commander-in-chief. You alone can neutralize this stupid, brooding mutiny while I'm waiting. I trust you and must trust you. My son can't hold my generals in check, though he'd never show outward joy at the secret if he knew it. But your face is the gateway to your soul, old friend. Page 904. A great scene. Both are different but valid. Now back to the show. Why did Toranaga do it? I believe Toranaga let Hiromatsu commit seppuku for a couple of reasons. First, to make sure everyone believes his surrender. After the first meeting, Hiromatsu told them that he thought that Toranaga wouldn't give up, and that was very damaging to the believability of his ruse, since his closest confidant didn't believe it. Many may have used that as a reason to not believe it as well, especially because Toranaga surrendering is very out of character. Why would the man who never lost a battle give up without a fight? Second, I don't think Hiromatsu was in on it. He recognized that Toranaga was going to let 3 of his top generals commit seppuku to solidify the fact that he was indeed surrendering, and decided to do it himself and take one for the team. Since he is such a high-ranking samurai with so much respect, this would essentially accomplish the same thing as 3 generals committing seppuku, and is probably even more convincing given the two's lifelong friendship. I'm starting to understand the intention of the writers and the creators of this show. The book was multifaceted in its storytelling. There were 3 main plotlines: the political intrigue of Toranaga versus the council, the forbidden romance of Blackthorne and Mariko, and finally Blackthorne's issues with the Portuguese. Then there were the many subplots. The show has almost universally cut out or severely simplified pretty much every main story or sub-story to do with the foreigners. This is now undoubtedly a show about Toranaga, his vassals and their plight, with the Portuguese, Blackthorne and his relationship with both taking a major backseat. If that's what they planned on doing, I wish they just committed to it and barely included the other 2 plotlines and just focused on the samurai. Instead, they seem to be doing it a little half-hearted in my opinion. They include many of the major scenes that the Portuguese and Blackthorne have in the book without any of the build-up. Blackthorne meeting his crew fell flat because he rarely spoke about them and never even seemed to care that one was boiled to death. In the book, he constantly holds it against Yabu. Even when they seem jovial, he thinks about how much he hates him and how much he needs to subdue that hatred for now. Alvito, Rodriguez and the Portuguese haven't been present nearly as much, and with a fairly major scene coming up, I'm sure that they'll probably include it, but again without any of the build-up. It won't hit the same. While I am enjoying the show and I do think it will probably fix the anticlimactic ending of the book, it unfortunately has lost a part of what made the original so great. That being said, now that I know what the show will most likely focus on, I can temper my expectations and just enjoy it for what it is. Even with the simplified Blackthorne, the samurai side of the story is still pretty great and I'll enjoy it. If you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe, and yeah, till next time.